Greetings. Welcome to Chapter 1. This is a lecture. I'm not big on lecturing, actually. I much prefer discussion. So, the notes I have in front of me are my Chapter 1 discussion notes. So I'm going to try to, keep this short. Um, if you've seen any of my other videos, I can get long-winded. And that's why I actually, prefer not a lecture format, because I know when I was a student, my long-winded professors put me to sleep, and I don't want to do that to you. I do some side work with the United Nations, and this it's a organization that's affiliated with the United Nations, and in one of the programs, I had a student. She was in middle of Nebraska or something, and she said she had to watch 6 hours of lectures a week. And I just thought to myself how excruciating that must be. Not a single one of you can honestly look me in the face and say you when you're in a real life classroom have to sit in front of 6 hours of lectures. Um, there's group work, there's discussions, there's all sorts of different things. There's lab exercises. 6 hours of lectures is very tedious. So I don't want to do that to you guys. I'm going to try to keep it as brief as possible. Again, this is an accelerated semester. Um, when I'm doing the video. So, if I end up keeping this video for the future, it won't be an accelerated semester, but I'm going to try to keep the time to a minimum here. So the first thing I want you to do is go and click on video 1 and watch that. So video 1 is so sorry, back this up. Pause the video, watch video 1. So every time I ask you to watch the video, you should pause the video. Oh, looks like they're having a firework party out here. I hope my daughter doesn't wake up. Um, Pause the video and watch video 1. Okay, so video 1 is obviously comedy, but what we see in video 1 is the idea that it doesn't really matter, right? What you say, as long as the form is correct. There was no substance. It was all style, right? I could, adopt the mannerisms, um, counting off on my fingers, putting up a slide here, walking, pacing, taking a sip of water, right? And the form is there. It's mocking a TED talk, but it's the form is all there. So what we need to understand is that by in the first couple speeches here, I want to focus on delivery. If we focus on delivering, we focus on the things we need to do, then naturally our speeches will get better. And when our speeches get better, we become more confident and more comfortable up there speaking. Um, so, does the content matter then? So, pause the video and watch video 2. So, video 2 is kind of wild. I should have said you don't have to watch the whole thing. Hopefully you guys catch that. But video 2 is ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. So content does matter, obviously. So um, in rhetoric, we have 5 canons, right? We have memory, we have arrangement, we have style, we have delivery, okay, and we have invention. Invention is the part that fills the speech with ideas, right? Um, the last speech that you saw was all wild invention. He's saying all sorts of offensive and ridiculous things to try to get a laugh out of his audience, his inside audience. Um, Content matters. If we deliver garbage, our speech will become garbage. So if we don't attend to any one of the canons of rhetoric, the speech will fall. If we don't focus on delivery, it's going to look like we're unprepared. If we don't focus on style, it's going to look like we're uneducated. If we don't focus on invention, it's going to look like, we don't know what we're talking about. If we don't focus on arrangement, it's going to sound sloppy and nobody's going to be able to follow us. If we don't focus on memory, right, where we're going to be eyes glued to the paper the whole time, right? Those are the 5 canons of rhetoric, and mastering those is what makes a speech good. I show you these 2 videos to demonstrate, right, that form is important, but ultimately form will get you nowhere without the content to support it. So this semester, we're going to focus on all 5 canons of rhetoric in one way or another, but we're also going to make sure that you're ready. Make sure that you're ready to produce good speeches and bring in good material that's going to help. So, I'm let me see here. Got to skip over a couple of these things. What does it mean to organize your thoughts logically? So if I were to give you directions from CCM's campus to a diner in Whippany, so I have a diner in mind. There's at the U-turn, there's this little diner there. I think there's like a Walgreens across the street from it on 10. But I were to say, go to parking lot 8, get in my car, right? I'm going to make a left out of the parking lot, make a right in front of the security shack, and then I'm going to make a right onto Route 10, and I'm going to drive several miles down the road, right? On my way, I'm going to see the overpass for I-287, and I'm going to drive underneath it, and I'm going to keep driving another couple miles, and then on my right-hand side, you're going to see on the right-hand side, you're going to see the diner. Sorry, there's kids or adults, I hope they're kids, throwing off fireworks outside as I'd be startled listening to them. So that is a logical organization. It wouldn't quite make sense if I started, so on your way, after driving several miles, you're going to see I-287. But first, you want to walk out of the building, go to Lot 8, get in your car. You're going to, make a right onto Route 10. Before you make a right, you got to make a right at the security shack. It's not logical. You have to find a logical order for how your speech is put together. So, this is crucial. This is a crucial component, order. And this semester, we're going to work on organization. There's many different ways to organize your speech, but you want to make sure it makes sense logically to the person who's listening. So the next thing I want to talk about is audience. Audience, when I use the term audience this semester, you're going to think probably of your, viewers watching, television at home, the claps and the laughs that you hear when you're watching, a game show or watching a sitcom on TV. That's what we typically think of audience. But audience is anybody watching, anybody consuming, right? So I want you to, pause the video, and I want you to briefly write, no more than a paragraph. I want you to write what you think your audience is, right? You can think of what your audience is on Twitter, on Facebook. Maybe you have a column in a newsletter for your, church or your synagogue or whatever. I want you to talk about one audience that you have. Maybe you're a gamer and you have a Twitch stream and you have 15 people who tune into your thing. I want you to talk about one audience that you have, that you exist. We all have audiences, right? So even when I was like a middle school kid or whatever, I was the senior patrol leader of my Boy Scout troop. Okay. And I had an audience of the younger scouts and the older scouts too every single week. That was my audience. I want you to talk about your audience. Talk about an audience that exists and just detail them. Talk about some of their characteristics. When we talk about audience, we want to talk about their age, we want to talk about their gender, we want to talk about their nationality, we want to talk about their hobbies, their interests, right? These are all things that matter. Pause the video and write briefly about one of your audiences. Okay, so when we select topics, when we speak to our audience, we have to speak to their demographic. We have to speak to their interests and their likes, their knowledge. Okay, you don't want to speak down to them, right? I'm not going to teach college freshmen the ABCs. I'm not going to be like, all right, now here it goes, A, B, C, D, E, F. I'm not going to do that. Similarly, I'm not going to talk about the Hadron Collider to a group of first-year college students. Many of you have probably never heard of it. Some of you might have heard of it. I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty of particle colliders for a speech fundamentals class. It's not appropriate. But I could talk to you about MLA style and citation, right? You've learned about it already. I could talk about how we use it in this class, and that would be a apt audience, right? So those are some of the things that we have to consider when we're talking about audience here. So I want to begin to address nerves and anxiety. That is one of my fortes. So it is unfortunate that I am not face to face with you guys. Typically, we do some meditation in my classes, and I have a group of students every semester that joins me outside of class, and we work together on anxiety. I can say one of the greatest things that I do for anxiety that I've done even when I was a motivational speaker was practice. Practice, practice, practice. I know it sounds so trite, right? When I was a student of public speaking, that's all the professor ever gave me. It wasn't until I got to you know the company I was working for, where I was a motivational speaker, that somebody told me maybe you should try breathing. And I always thought it was ridiculous. I was like, get out of here, man. Practice was what I was told, and this is what has been advised since as long as I can remember. If you look back to public speaking manuals from like the mid 20th century, you'll see practice. If you look back even further to the Renaissance, you'll see them say practice. Right? Memory is actually more of a thing back then, but practice, that's a huge thing. So practice, practice, practice. But also we can do some breathing. We can do some guided breathing, and we'll talk about that in the weeks to come. So I practice doing certain things like washing dishes. I'll practice while washing the dishes. I'll make my family sit and watch me. I had I had to give a presentation earlier this month to my colleagues, and I had my wife sit down and watch me. I went through the presentation with her and showed her what I was going to do. My family probably gets annoyed from it, but that's what I do. So another thing we could do is to think positively. Okay, think of a positive outcome for your speech, and that would be very beneficial to your speech. Imagining your success, right? Imagining what your success would look like. Um, so I'm not going to go through all this stuff. I feel like it would just make the lesson too long. So that's chapter 1, a brief introduction to public speaking. Please answer the question on audience for the discussion and respond to one of your classmates. And that will be your participation for this chapter. Thank you.